Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Frank Salas. I go by the name The Talented Mr. Salas, and I have a fantastic guest for us. I have Troy from Canada, who's based in Canada, but he's actually traveling the world living the digital nomad lifestyle. He does have his own social media marketing agency, and he focuses a lot on consulting. His personal strengths are branding, marketing, and business operations. And I'd like to have Troy introduce himself. So Troy, say what's up to everybody real quick.
Awesome. Thanks for the beautiful introduction. What is going on, everybody? Troy Swinging here. So I guess a quick little introduction about me. We currently live in Vancouver. We just spent 8 months in Bali. We're heading back out to Bali in November. I got a pretty big introduction for a quick introduction, but a lot of my background stems from the contracting industry. I spent about 10 years doing interior contracting, building, doing drywall, steel studs, painting, taping, getting the interior of entire buildings set up. Used to run large crews. In 2013, we ended up taking quite a big hit on a large contract. So we lost about $90-some thousand. And that really made me re-look at everything that I was doing. It really made me, when I was in the contracting industry, there's no scale. The only scale is building more buildings and hiring more people. Whereas as in the marketing industry and the branding and design industry, you can be valued at a higher level than you can as a contractor. A contractor, you have set prices. These are the industry standards. That's what you get. You can get a little bit more, but you can't raise it drastically to compare to where you're at. So I got a glimpse into the marketing industry in 2013, and it just showed me that I can become extremely valuable if I get really good at what I do. And the rest is history. I booked a one-way ticket out to Vancouver last year after studying marketing for about 4 years, and finally went all in on everything and made it happen since then. So yeah.
Yeah, man. So, dude, we're gonna jump into a lot of the great stuff. So, first and foremost, you said you knew that if you studied marketing, you knew you would become valuable to organizations. Talk to us about what does that even mean?
Absolutely. So, basically, I seen a lot of people's marketing after I started studying marketing, and it was pretty poor, half-assed attempts. You could just tell that they needed more business. They wanted to get something out there, but they really had no idea what they were doing. And at the time, I didn't really know a ton about what I was doing, but studying it and realizing that if I don't know as much, and I know that their shit's broken, that if I keep sharpening my skills and getting better and better and better at what I can do, I'll be able to serve them top tier. There is some really great marketing agencies out there, but there's a lot more really poor ones than there are great ones. So, it just showed me that if you increase your value and actually commit to mastering your craft, you can become extremely valuable. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was kind of my observation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I want to delve in a little bit deeper for everybody listening. So when Troy's saying that he's valuable to business, basically these business owners don't know what the heck they're doing, and they're working with people that may not be the best solution for them. And when he's adding value, he's saying, look, you're doing X, Y, and you're getting Z results. And I propose we start doing, this, and this is why, and this is why. And you can start bringing them revenue, more clients, exposure, own a bigger portion of the market share, those kinds of things. So I really want to just drive that point home for everybody in the audience to just always realize, how can you provide value to business owners? One thing that really caught my interest with you, I love your posts on Facebook, was your pricing. You told a story about how you were doing some bidding for a job, and you were running around and you were taking measurements, and you kind of just didn't need them. Tell us that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, this was actually one of the first really big contracts I picked up. This was in the contracting industry, but it was about I'd say $25K per service contract. So it was 25 grand for drywall, 25 grand for taping. So when I came in, all the time, I'd dress up really nice. I'd dress up in a, pretty slick outfit. I'd make sure I'm showered beforehand, whereas most contractors would come in covered in dust, looking pretty scraggly. So I'd come in and I'd pretend to take all these measurements. I could just do all the measurements off of the blueprints. I didn't actually need to take measurements, but I'd go in, I'd take the measurements. This would make the client feel great. they would make them feel like I was taking care of them. Whereas other people would come in, grab the blueprints. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. So I spent like an extra 15 or 20 minutes really caring for the client. I didn't need the measurements. I could do them off of the blueprints. I had a formula that would give me those measurements. But the fact that I went through every single room, measured every single corner, the person was like, wow, like you really know your stuff. And it's like, to them, it appears like you're taking extreme care of them and like you know more and care more than everybody else. And I think at the end of the day, any big contract is going to come from trust. If the person does not trust you and believe that you can do the job, you're not going to get it. I mean, you can swindle them and become great at sales tactics or whatever it be, but at the end of the day, it comes down to your trust is going to be the speed of the project starting and the project getting done. So I think it's just, it may be a little bit of a facade, but at the same time too, if you're not leveraging little things like that, you're going to lose to the next guy that is. So, I mean, that's the story. And I mean, we won the bid and I asked him, the only reason he said is because you actually cared. My price was, I think, 2 times higher than the other guy, but he's like, you actually cared and I knew you could get the job done. I also educated them on a couple little things that they need to get done. Like they need to foam these corners here and make this happen so it lasts longer and blah, blah. But that as well, they said nobody else told them those things. So having the knowledge, caring, and actually going the extra mile in the introduction, I think goes a long way.
I agree, man. I agree. So, now you're in the social media game, you're in the marketing game, you're selling services to businesses and thought leaders, consultants, professionals like that. So now that you're in that industry and that arena, a lot of those things definitely do translate. Talk to us about what things translate and how because you're still doing B2B, it's just in a different industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of them translate in a big thing that I've learned recently, that you have to be able to communicate the value that you're offering to somebody. A lot of the times, like whereas in the contracting industry, I would give somebody a $10,000 quote and they would pretty much know what that was for because it's X amount of board feet or X amount of interior, whatever it be. Whereas now the marketing game is a lot more, how do I say it? The value, you can't tangibly see the value. Like, it's just like, I'm going to do this for you and I'm going to do that for you and it's going to do this and you're going to get this. And they're like, what the hell does that mean? So one time a couple months ago, I gave a guy a quote for about 10 grand and it was pretty reasonable. Like we were going to do quite a bit of work for him, but I didn't quantify the actual work that we were going to do. I didn't let him know how long it was going to take, what we were going to do, this and that. And then from that point, I started really looking at when I put in proposals and different contracts for bigger companies that it needs to be quantified to a way that they'll understand what we're doing. And as long as I compare apples to apples, like we can do this in this amount of time. If you're to do this yourself, it's going to take you probably double that time and cost you double the money. So when they can actually understand like how much time is being put into actual projects, then they're going to respect it much more than just like, here's my airy fairy package, hopefully you take it. So like really breaking it down to tangibles, I think made the biggest difference in everything that I'm doing. I guess how it translates, I mean, everyone judges the book by its cover. No matter who you are, no matter what you say, you don't judge people. You make a judgment instantly within a couple seconds. You know whether or not you can trust somebody. So I really believe, like, that's why I focus on some of the personal branding in, is that your image is a good chunk of everything that you do. People instantly will judge you. And if you don't look presentable, like you can actually get the job done, then that's going to definitely fall off on you. I mean, it doesn't, if you compare a guy that looks like he can get the job done and a guy that actually can get the job done, and one's scraggly and disheveled, it goes back to the same as the contracting industry. The guy that appears like he can get the job done generally will win the contract over the scraggly guy. So it's just, I think your perception is everything, and it goes a really long way.
There's so many things you said in there that was great. I hope a lot of people re-listen to these kinds of interviews, especially if you're somebody who wants to make a living off of social media, or even more specifically be a social media marketing agency owner and sell these kind of services to successful people, businesses, thought leaders, authors, so on and so forth. So when you are telling people kind of what you do, how do you even answer that question? So you're at Thanksgiving dinner, they're coming around and saying, "Oh, how was your year?" And there's always someone that's like, "Well, Troy, what do you do? I always see you travel. You always work from home. What do you do?" How do you answer that question?
Yep, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, I don't know if you read my post on the elevator pitch the other day,
I
and
did. I
that's
love
something
that
I'm
post,
really
by the
working
way.
on. Yeah, really cool, actually. But that's something I'm really working wiring on. But honestly, when somebody asks me, I just help people get more results. And okay, so I guess at Thanksgiving dinner or whatever it be when I'm with somebody, I'm really working on wiring down my actual elevator pitch right now because this year I've been getting a lot more clear on what I actually do. I mean, I think the past couple of years it's been a little bit of everywhere just to make something happen. But this year, I mean, I think a big thing is I help people get results and make more money. It sounds really ambiguous and broad, but then I think an interesting thing about that is when you say things like that, then people will say, "Tell me more." Like, I think your biggest thing with an elevator pitch is you want to intrigue people in 6 words to the point where they'll engage in more conversation. Obviously, it's family member or whatever, that's what you said. But I think an elevator pitch needs to excite somebody to a point where they'll actually want to know more about what you do and ask more questions so you can get them more into your reality.
No, that's great stuff. And if you guys don't have your elevator pitch down, you definitely got to have one. It's funny you said 6 words, because my elevator pitch is
Yeah.
exactly 6 words. Mine is I
Yeah.
boost profits 40%, results guaranteed. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
talk to me, talk to me,
Love that.
talk
Love
to
that.
me.
Love that. Actually, I love that you said that because I just put that on my new site and it's guaranteed 150% increase within 6 months or less. As
Yeah.
long as you stay committed to the process, I can guarantee you're going to start winning. Even a cleaning company I was working with recently, we made theirs. It's hilarious, actually. I can't remember exactly what it was to the point, but it was my cleaning company helps increase your profits. And it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Your cleaning company. But then he can go into the point of like how it actually helps retain clients, how it actually keeps a cleaner environment for your employees. So when your employees can perform at a higher level, like just different things that like will really intrigue that person to like, he used to go tell companies like, "Yeah, I run a cleaning company." And they're like, "Okay, so what?" Now he's like, "I'm a cleaning company that increases profits." And it's like, "Oh, tell me more about that." Like, it's just differentiating yourself in the industry than just the average Joe that's just a cleaning company.
What if you're somebody who's listening to this and maybe you're at a 9 to 5, maybe you're in college, maybe you're just getting started out and all this, and you're like, well, that sounds great. I would love to guarantee my results, but I've never done this kind of stuff. What would you tell that kind of person?
Yeah, great question. I mean, get out there and start helping people. Start getting some results. Like, I don't think, obviously, if you can't guarantee your results, don't do it right away, but just start working with people. I'm writing this in a chapter in a book. Actually, you're publishing a book soon too, but we're writing a book right now. And I think a big thing a lot of people spend too much time is dialing in their avatar. You do need to understand your avatar. You need to have it wired down, whoever you're going to serve, whatever it be, but just get in the trenches. If you're starting, just get your get your fucking feet dirty, your hands wet, and actually start serving people. And then as soon as you start serving people, you can start using the results that you've got other people. You can start using the methods that you got other people, and then you can translate that into everything you're doing. But I mean, don't let having the perfect customer stop you from actually helping people that need your help. Soon as you get people some results, you can use the results. If you're not comfortable guaranteeing what you're doing, you need to get better at what you're doing. It's a name of the game, right? If you're not really good at what you're offering and you're trying to guarantee it and you're not that good, then don't guarantee it. Because if not, you're going to have a world of hurt. I mean, there's certain things that, I mean, you can work around that. I do, how do I call this? Conditional guarantees. So if somebody doesn't do the work that we agreed upon doing, you don't get a refund. Whereas if you've done the work, you've shown that you've done it, you've done all the steps that we were told to do, that we outlined for the company. If those steps aren't done, I can't guarantee you anything. I can just tell you things and hopefully you do them. But if you don't do them, then you're not going to get results. So I think that's kind of two sides to that story. Oh, I can't hear you.
Hey, sorry about that. I was on mute.
All good.
Hey, Troy, so that was great. To even further piggyback on what you had brought up, in my book that I'm writing, we're both writing books right now. That's awesome. I have this whole, like, I'd love to think of sales as whale hunting. So if you want to get some whales, you got to have some nice bait. And the way you get some nice bait is by having some nice wins. And those are those cases you're talking about that you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to do stuff for free. Find anybody that will let you do any type of social media work, get a win from them, put that on the hook, and throw that out into the ocean and say, here, welly, you're looking for Moby. And it's just, you're out there making it happen. And sell the wins of your customers. And that's why when you approach this particular business, which is marketing and the social media marketing business model, you should always, whoever's listening, you should always be in thinking of your customer success, because every time they win, every time they have success, you can then take those results and then sell those to bigger clients that are going to pay you more. I do this all the time. In any business, I get some wins. I do stuff very, very low cost for some beta clients. They're usually friends and families in my circles. Then we get some results. We tweak the process. We optimize all that. And then we take those wins and we raise our prices. We get bigger and bigger, and we just keep doing that over and over. And like you, I always come at the premium. I'll never be, at the price. Price will never be my value to the marketplace. My knowledge, my results, those are the kind of values that I strive for. So, a lot of people who are in the social media world, they undervalue themselves. So I would say 99.9% of people undervalue themselves. Talk to us about pricing. Talk to us about how to position yourself, what do you charge, all that stuff.
I was hoping you were going to ask that because I really want to dive into that. I think an interesting thing with pricing is, like, the biggest thing I learned this from Dr. John DeMartini, is that the less that you charge for things, the less you can actually serve somebody. So if you're charging somebody at a lower rate, you don't have the resources to actually help them as much as you could help them. So if you're charging an extremely low, like unfathomable rate that nobody else is charging in the industry, you're probably not going to be able to deliver because you're going to be resentful. And now you're going to have to pick up 10 times, maybe even 20 or 30 times the amount of contracts just to eat. Whereas if you charge a reasonable amount that covers all of your expenses and actually puts you in a place that you can serve, then you can serve at a higher level. I think positioning wise, I think a really interesting thing is understanding what your values or what the value of your service is worth to somebody. So say, for example, somebody you're working with wants an entire social media campaign to be running for them for the next 2 years. And you find out from them, like, what that campaign successfully converting actually is valued to them. And if they say, if this is converting at this amount, it's going to bring us in an extra 2 million or whatever it be, then you can be, okay, well, that's going to be 10 grand today or whatever it is. But it's like, if you compare 2 million to 10 grand, it's like, that's a drop in the bucket. If they actually have that vision to make that happen, they can do the ad spend, they can actually put the cash into it. I think really positioning the price of what this is worth against the actual, against the actual dollar amount of what you're charging. I don't know if that last bit makes sense, but really quantifying what your value is to them. Like, if this is worth 10 million for you in the next 5 years, then 15 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever it be, shouldn't be an issue for us to move forward today.
And yeah, that's a great point. And what Troy's talking about, for everybody who is in my millennial marketing agency mastermind, Troy's talking about one of the closes that I love using, which is the lifetime value close. So you basically go to any business. For me, I serve a lot of real estate professionals, and real estate people make a lot of money on some nice deals.
Yeah.
So if I go to a realtor and they're talking about anything, it could be bookkeeping, services, whatever, I just ask them, how much is one real estate deal worth to you? They're like, 20, 30 grand. Okay. if I can bring you one more deal, will it be worth this? Almost all the time, they're like, yeah, for sure, absolutely. Or if I can bring you these many, we just bring out a lifetime value. Or let's say maybe another one of my niches is medical spas that I serve. In the medical spa, community, someone's going to drop $5,000 to $10,000 within the first 6 months to a year at that place. Just the nature of the game. And so, but I have the doctors and the staff say, how much is a lead worth for you? How much is a customer worth for you? What's a lifetime value of that? And most of the time they don't even know. So that's what Troy's talking about. And that's a great thing to bring up to your customers. I want to talk about two more things before we move on to the next point, because you brought it up. You got to charge enough. And I'm from Texas. I'm from the real estate game. And we call this having enough meat on the bone. Because if you have enough meat on the bone, then you can feed everybody and no one goes hungry. But if you don't charge enough, then you're not going to be able to fulfill. And you're not going to get those bigger deals, because if you try to like price cut a whale, they're going to be like, I know that you can't deliver on your service because you're not charging enough, and you're going to need to have like 10 more of these deals. You're going to be giving crappy service to 10 people, where if you just raise your prices, you give really good service to like 2 or 3 people and, progress that way. So I thought that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Having enough meat on the bone. And then qualifying.
If shit goes crazy.
Go ahead.
Shit goes crazy. Yeah, if shit goes crazy, you actually now have the money to actually fix the problem. Whereas if shit happens, like I've done contracts before where it's like, oh my God, this was not expected. But if you have the cash flow to remedy that problem, then it's no big deal. Whereas if you're just like cutting the bone, like you said, it's like, okay, well, now what do we do? Well, hopefully this works out. So I think that's a really big point to drill into.
Yeah, no, man, and that's hilarious. Yeah, no, that's, and I'm glad, and please do. We're just having a discussion here. My goal is to make sure that people listening to this are definitely getting the best use out of their time. And this is great, top-notch stuff. So yeah, you got to have the meat on the bone. You can't be cutting into the bone. And then you said something even better. You lightly touched on this, and I want you to go on it more, because I talk for days on this in my masterminds and my consulting, which is qualifying customers. You said if they're the kind of business that can make $2 million, for example, then 10,000 to them would be a drop in the bucket. So automatically, I'm knowing that you're qualifying your customers. Talk to us more about qualifying your customers.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that I actually need to drill into a lot more myself. But a big thing that I started doing recently, like I have an application process. You fill out an application, you actually let me know what your company's about, what you're doing. And even this in general, I put right at the end of it, are you the kind of person that actually is ready to invest into your business and actually spend money to get to the next level? Because I mean, a lot of people in the marketing game will just get on the phone with you and kick your tires and just see if there's air in them. Oh, those tires are full. Cool. I'll talk to you later. Like they have no interest in actually getting started. Whereas if they at least check the yes box, then I mean, at least I know that they're somewhat interested in actually spending money, because people that aren't spending money will definitely say no. And that if they say no, then you don't get into the conversation. You should let them know, like, hey, sorry, busy right now. We'll make something happen the next little while when you're actually ready to get something started. I mean, I wouldn't discount that from just connecting with people, because I mean, this game is all about relationships and connections. But at the same time too, like, you need to know that the majority of the people you're talking to are going to be buyers. And I mean, not just somebody coming around checking if there's air in your tires. So I think that's been one of the things I've been doing recently that definitely has been making a big difference, because you can also reference in the application when you do get an objection. It's like, well, I thought you're the kind of person that said you're ready to actually spend money to level up. And like, what do you mean by that? And then they can go into that and actually dive into their actual objections. So I think you can leverage that against it. But other than that, I'm curious on some of your standpoints on what you actually use to qualify there, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, man. So, dude, so number one, I love that. I use this, and everybody in my millennial marketing agency, a professional agency for social media marketing agency owners all over the world. Every one of us uses what's called the proposal close, and you kind of put a little bit of a tweak on it. Instead of the proposal, it's more of an application, which I like. Yeah. But I use the same thing. So I send out a questionnaire. It's about 15 minutes, and it tells me everything. How much is a lead worth to you? What's the lifetime value of your customer? What services do you sell the most? And then I try to find out what is their bread and butter, and I figured out what that is. And then when we speak, I said, okay, this is your bread and butter. Now let's start talking about steak and shrimp. And then we start talking
Right,
about,
right,
let's make this happen. And they always know that I'm about augmenting, that I'm about bringing more and more. So yes, I
yeah,
qualify them. And then my questions are like, are you at a position to invest into your organization? I even say
yeah,
stuff, are you the decision maker? Because a lot of times you'll meet somebody who's got a big ego and they're like, oh yeah, I
yeah,
handle this, but they can't make decisions over $5,000, a grand, or they can't spend any money, but they are the boss of,
mm,
or a department or something. So
yeah.
are you the
Well,
decision maker? Go ahead.
that's an interesting thing actually, because we're doing quite a bit of business in the actual like corporate space right now. We started a startup downtown Vancouver. I won't get too much into that, but an interesting thing is that like a lot of people in that space, in the corporate space, need to bring decisions to their board. So if you are getting into those spaces, like your life cycle is a lot longer versus if you're working with smaller businesses. If the more corporate that you get, the longer it takes to close some deals because they need to approve it across the entire board of 10 people and this and that. I think it's really interesting that you brought that up because oftentimes you'll be talking to, maybe the head of IT or the head of whatever it is, and he doesn't have power to buy from you. He's just kind of checking you out and seeing what you're all about. Maybe he'll push you down the line, but understand that the bigger you get in the corporate space, the longer the sales cycle.
And the bigger the paycheck, baby. And
Yeah,
that's what we're all here for.
absolutely.
So yes, that's how you get the whales. And so as you start to work your way up, and I'm not here yet. Troy and I are just like you. We're just guys who are maybe a little bit ahead of you. Maybe we're light years ahead of you.
Yeah,
Maybe we're like 10 steps behind you, and you're like so far advanced. We'd love to connect with you. We're just guys who are playing the game just like you are. Want to give back to the community and the industry. And for me, when I view that whole process, I want to meet people that are working with small to medium sized business owners. I want to meet people that are in the Fortune 5,000, the Fortune 2,000, the Fortune 1,000, the Fortune 500, the Fortune 100. I want to work your way up. That's what every B2B goal should be, is to get into
yeah,
those types of spaces. So it's all about thinking bigger. And when you're working with those people that require a longer sales cycle, just know, yeah, it does take a lot more time, but they're also easier to work with. They've got the
yeah,
money. They're going to pay you on time. It just takes
yeah,
a little bit longer to close a deal. When I'm in those situations, I always like to include the chief finance officer because
yeah,
number
yeah,
one,
yeah.
nobody like reaches out to them on anything anymore. And
Yeah,
number two, like they know the numbers. They're like, oh yeah, every customer's worth this much and our
yeah.
advertising's this. And if we can show to
Mm,
the CFO that, hey, this is a good finance move, then if you got
yeah,
this CFO as a cheerleader talking to the
yeah,
CEO,
yeah, yeah. No
then I
doubt.
get that check sign, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the money maker. That's great. I love it.
So, moving on to the next part, one thing that you brought up where you're like, what do you mean? That's one of my lifeboats. So when you're whale hunting, sometimes you get your bait bitten and it starts to take
Yeah,
you underground and you need a
yeah,
life raft, a little emergency
yeah,
life raft to take you back to shore. And one that I use is, how do you mean? Or what do you mean? You said that. Well, what do you mean
mm,
exactly? So, and
yeah,
that's when you're talking about handling that objection. So you said somebody said that they weren't ready to invest and they said no on the thing. And you're like, well, what do you mean? And now you can handle that objection.
yeah.
Almost every sale that I go through has an objection of some sort. So talk to us about what objections are, how you view them, how you handle them, and
Hmm.
all that in our industries.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think a big realization recently is that like when people say they don't have the money, it means my money is not a priority for you, or I don't see the value that I'm going to give you this money right now. So I think diving into diving into what their actually objection means, like after you finish the sale and somebody objects, or actually after you finish the offer and somebody objects, ask them questions, like be like, okay, so is there anything that I haven't answered for you, any questions that we haven't went over, any different things that we haven't went over? Then they dive deeper into, like, if they start asking more questions, it shows that they're interested and they really just want to know more. They want to be sold to. So they start diving into the things that are kind of worrying them. You handle those objections, and then from that point, you can keep going. I mean, objections are just questions that are unanswered. At the end of the day, it's just questions that they may have not asked themselves, or you may have not proposed to them. So I think asking the questions, handling the answers to the questions, making sure it's in favor to them. Um, I mean, I think that's a really big part, like asking why, asking the question, like diving deep into the, like, oftentimes we'll stay surface level. We won't actually answer the question right away. So if you keep asking them why and like, what does that mean? And like, what are you talking about when you say that? Then they'll get into the true, the real, the actual raw, real answer that they actually have hidden and buried deep down inside them that they're kind of trying to keep safe. But when you can get those answers out, those are the answers that actually move them to the decision.
Now, you said so many things real quick. I want to stay on what we're at right now because it was just so profound. I want to make sure we really drive this point home for everybody that's listening. So when you are listening to an objection or you're handling that, there's always some underlying reason. So someone says, I don't have enough money, or even I don't have the time, or whatever they say, they're really saying something else, but they're not trying to be mean or rude about it because they're living by society's rules and blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to be direct with you. Some people will be extremely direct with you and tell you to go jump in a lake, which is preferred, which is great. But the final thing that you says is you want to have them make a decision, because whether it's a yes, whether it's a no, I always start off my calls with Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner. I'm going to propose some ideas, and I will just as enthusiastically accept the no, just as I will enthusiastically accept the yes. Does that sound fair? And they're like, okay, awesome. Because that's all I want. I want to have them make a decision. I'm going to listen to what they have to say, find out their problems. I'm going to offer solutions. And if it's a good fit, I'm going to act in full ethics and full integrity and really pressure them very professionally to get that deal to advance to the next step. Because if they leave that meeting without their problem being solved, I believe that I did them a disservice by not solving problems. And if they had that problem, if they had that problem, and if there's no, and if they're qualified, then there's no reason why they shouldn't work with you, you know? And that's why you got to take the deal and kind of stay uncomfortable. So tell me, give us some maybe examples or maybe your experience on staying in the deal and getting uncomfortable. Talk to us about that.
Getting uncomfortable. I think that's a great one. It's a great question to get you uncomfortable. I think staying in the deal and getting uncomfortable, asking the questions like, I think an interesting thing I learned from Tony Robbins is oftentimes a sale doesn't happen until somebody's emotionally disturbed. So you have to ask questions that are the questions that nobody else will ever ask them. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of an actual example of this, but like if you're getting into like where somebody's talking about with their business, you know, I'm here, I want to get here. And if you just even talk to them, like, you know, if you don't get this handled, you're going to stay in the same damn place for the rest of your life. Right. And like shit like that will actually get somebody thinking like, shit, like he's right. And nobody's ever said that to me. I'll give you a prime example. Like long time ago, this one, I won't go too in depth with the person, but there's a guy I met in Miami airport. We were flying back and this guy wanted to meet up with me last minute. He drove out to the airport. He was coming from Fort Lauderdale or whatever. We met up and me and him just got talking. And this at the time I was doing a lot more personal coaching. And we got talking and he's telling me a story and this and that. And he didn't say anything about his actual relationship with his father, but I asked about his relationship with his father. And like, he got so red in the face and he got so mad. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And then he calmed down and like came to actually back to reality and dove into it, because that was the thing that I could tell that was actually like really messing him up. But without me saying that, it really didn't connect with him in a way that I actually cared. But that question, like, you don't really ask that question unless you actually like really care about the person. And from that point, I mean, he just asked me, he's like, I don't care how much it is to work with you. Let's make something happen. But that moment of asking him his relationship with his father and this and that, like, I just met the guy like literally 20 minutes ago. And now I'm asking about like what his upbringing was like and this and that. But it really shifted his reality to the point of like, nobody's ever asked me a question like that before. Like, you might actually have something to offer to me. Like, instead of just like surface level, oh, you know, how's Bobby, how's Sally, like this and that, like just banter. Like, you actually want to dive deep into what is actually going on with people, because you can actually help them more. So I don't know if that was a really good example, but that was a prime example. The dude was 10 times the size of me and madder than a hatter when I asked the question. So
just for the record, you advise for people to not ask about their relationship with their father during your sales call?
Well, probably not, depending on what service you're offering. But I mean, I think it was relevant to the industry that I was pitching him in at the time. But just like asking questions about them personal selves, like of actually what's going on, like really, not like what's kind of going on surface level, like what's really happening right now. Like if you continue down this path for the next 2 years, like most businesses fail, are you going to continue being a business that isn't failing? And
I
like
love
that, that'll get them to a point of where they'll actually answer a real question. They might, but this also comes to at the beginning of the call, making sure you set the tone, like you said. You can even set the tone right at the beginning. Like, I'm going to ask you some tough questions. We're going to dive deep. The only reason I'm doing this is to see if I can actually help you. If you can answer these questions as openly and honest as possible, it would really help us get to a place where we can make something happen. So I think setting the tone to that conversation is important, because then you're not just like, you have permission to ask those questions and not just barging in with just like obnoxious questions.
Yeah, and then to really bring it home to the people who are selling marketing services and social media marketing in the agency world, and people who want to sell Facebook and Twitter and chatbots and Instagram and all that stuff. Whenever you're working with a business owner, you want to ask them, what does more business mean to you? What does it mean for you to be the hottest nail salon in Hollywood Boulevard, or the best shop in Dallas, Texas, or the hottest restaurant in Miami, Florida? What does that actually mean? Well, now I can do this. Now I'm going to have the recognition. Or it might mean it'll be that my company, my business making so much money that I can hire other people and I can spend more time with my family. So now you're actually into the real reason, which is what Troy,
the real root of the problem. Yeah.
Which is what Troy was saying. And, you got to definitely work your way there and show that you are definitely there to help them out. But yeah, all the time, like I was having a conversation call with a lady yesterday who was still doing cocktail waitressing in her 30s. She's really, really attractive. And she's like, doing this. And I should have said, yo, how much longer can you do this? When do you turn 40? Yeah. Maybe let's wave a magic wand and say you're going to be great looking until you're 50. That's coming around the corner. How much longer can you do this? This is a great decision. Let's go ahead and do this. I need your approval here. Swipe your credit card here. And guess what? Boom, money went through. And she was like, thank you. You know what? I just need that extra push. And people want that. It's not that you're pressuring them. They're coming to you because they have a problem, and you're there to help make a decision. So, so far, everything we talked about has been absolutely phenomenal. When it comes to making money online, people just don't believe you. Like the most people, like it's
so true.
It's a scam. No way, no way. You're one of those guys. Talk to us about how real making money online is for yourself and for business.
Yeah, I love how you said that, because I've had a couple conversations with friends recently, like, what are you doing? What's this? And then the last question they always ask is, so are you making money? And it's like, well, fuck, I just traveled to Asia. I was in Bali for 8 months. I mean, no matter who you are, it's more cost effective to live there, but you still need to be bringing in cash flow. I mean, if you're not bringing in cash flow, you ain't going to eat, you ain't going to survive. I think, I mean, what was the exact question again? Yeah.
So, I forgot the exact question, but what I want to get from you, man, is what I want to get from you is how do you like respond to people that are like saying, is this a scam? How do you make money? I really want you to talk to people about the reality and the truth about making money in this new space, because people in their minds are like, the only way that I know how to get money is by going to a job, by clocking in, clocking out, selling some stuff on a garage sale, stuff like that. So talk to us about the money, dude.
Absolutely. Okay. So, I mean, I think it's really interesting because it's a whole different reality of earning money. I remember actually like 2 weeks ago, we went camping up in BC, and I was talking to this older fellow, and dude was probably, I'd say he's like 65, 70. And he's like, how do you guys make money? And I was like, well, it's on the internet, and like we do it through PayPal, through Stripe, through different sorts of mediums. People send me money from all over the world. And he's like, what? I guess it's insane. I used to shovel pig shit for hours a day, and I'd get paid, $3 an hour to shovel hundreds of yards of pig shit. And it's like, what? Like, it was interesting to me, because it's like, to them, that reality doesn't even exist. And I think a fascinating thing, I just wrote about this yesterday. When I was just first moving out to Vancouver, I picked up a sales job actually when I was first coming out here just to see if I can make something happen with it. Sure enough, we did like 800 cold calls in a month and it sucked ass and we didn't close anything. But when I was leaving, I remember my brother-in-law asking me, and he was like, what if you go out there and you can't make anything happen? And I'm like, you know what? If I put in the work, it's going to work. So it's like, if I actually commit myself to making this happen, I will figure it out one way or another. I think your level of commitment to the process is bar none. Like if you show up every day and you're calling people, you're contacting people, I think it's I can't remember the law, but it's the law of averages, right? The amount of people that you hit, if you go after, 25 people, convert at least 2 or 3. Like you have to hit numbers. I think, to deal with the money side of things, when people say, is this a scam, this and that, I mean, I don't want to spend time convincing somebody if they don't really believe in like actually the opportunity that's in front of them at the time. They're going to be a pain in the ass to work with. You can try and convince them to the point of where like, yeah, sure, this is going to work out for you. It's not a scam, but like, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. Yeah, I'll help them get past the sale, but like turning somebody that believes everything's a scam into a believer is going to be a lot more painful for you than it is finding somebody that actually believes in what it is. I think that's a good answer to that question, because like I'm not here to convince anybody of everything. If you don't want the results, like I'll convince you in the sale just to push you past the line. But if you're just a tough cookie to crack, and I'd rather just move on to the next person that doesn't, because there's lots of people out there that actually believe in truly making it happen. I don't know. That's my answer.
No, great stuff, man. Great stuff. So Troy, we're running out of time here. Where can people find out more information about you?
Yep. You can go to troysconsulting.com. I'm going to be launching that it's live right now if you want to check it out, but I'll be launching that officially in the next, I'd say, week or so. And check me out on Facebook, Troy Assoignon Troy Assoignon on Facebook. Last name's a little hard to spell, Assoignon. I think that's it. That's it.
Awesome. Hey, Troy, thank you so much for being here on the show. For everybody out there, if you're looking to get yourself, your business to the next level, make sure you follow me. Make sure you follow Troy. Reach out to both of us on Facebook. And if you like this interview, make sure you make sure you share. If you found value in this, leave us a comment. Let us know how you liked it. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for being here.
You are so welcome. Take care, Frank. Thanks for having me.